When you hear the name Rambo, what comes to mind? Is it the ultimate one-man army, a symbol of raw power and unyielding determination? Or perhaps a haunted warrior carrying the invisible scars of a war that changed him forever? No matter your perception, there's no denying the monumental impact of John Rambo, especially in his explosive debut, First Blood. Released in 1982, First Blood introduced audiences to an action hero who would become an icon for decades. It's the story of a lost Vietnam veteran carrying the invisible wounds of war who returns home to find no welcome, only loneliness, alienation, and an endless haunting. Arriving in a small town, Rambo clashes with Sheriff Will Teasel, an authoritarian and prejudiced man. Simply because of his rugged appearance, Rambo is driven out of town like a strayed dog. But when the tension boils over, an unequal battle erupts. The entire local police force and National Guard hunt down a lone man, a man who was trained to be the perfect killing machine. The only person who can prevent the tragedy is Colonel Sam Troutman, Rambo's mentor and spiritual father. First Blood doesn't just showcase tense action sequences, it also exposes the mental anguish of a veteran abandoned by society. This blend of violence and tragedy made the film a shock at the time of its release. And did you know Rambo was originally supposed to die in this very film? That's just one of countless astonishing secrets behind the smoke and fire. Join me as we uncover the strangest and most shocking truths about First Blood, the movie that turned Rambo into an immortal legend. Number 1. The ending was so dark. It had to be buried forever. The theatrical version ends with Rambo collapsing in Colonel Troutman's arms, sobbing, exposing all the pain of a veteran. It's a bitter ending, but it leaves a glimmer of hope. Think about that moment, a tragic, pathetic end to a soldier's life, devoid of any Hollywood redemption. When this original scene was presented to a small test audience in Seattle, the reaction was not sadness, but outright fury. The filmmakers were shocked. People weren't just disappointed. They were literally yelling at the screen, unable to accept that the character who had fought so hard against an unfair system would die like a wounded animal. The immediate fierce backlash was the single biggest commercial scare of the entire production. In a desperate scramble, they reshot the ending, opting for the famous emotional breakdown scene, which, critically, left the door open for a sequel and ensured Rambo survived to fight another day. It was a purely commercial decision made under duress, but one that undeniably changed cinematic history. Number 2. The 3-hour cut that made Stallone want to bury the film. Before becoming an action masterpiece, First Blood was almost an unredeemable disaster. The first cut ran for more than 3 hours, so tedious and messy that no one could even recognize the story. The initial feedback from the internal audience was devastating. The pacing was glacial, the dialogue was long-winded, and several scenes felt endlessly repeated. Stallone, who had staked his considerable post-Rocky career on this role, felt humiliated. He saw his greatest hope turning into a dangerous joke. Instead of walking away, he chose to heroically lock himself in the editing room. Working tirelessly with editor Joan Chapman, Stallone became a machine of cinematic surgery. They aggressively cut dozens of minutes, removing cumbersome dialogue and re-establishing the rhythm. The result, a tight, tense film of just 93 minutes. Stallone's willingness to self-edit and his aggressive approach to pacing are credited with transforming a murky corpse of a film into an immortal action monument. Number 3. The Rambo of the film has a body count of 0. Despite being a trained killing machine, Stallone resolutely defended a crucial change. Rambo never intentionally kills anyone in First Blood. The only person who dies, Deputy Galt, is from losing his balance and falling from the helicopter after Rambo throws a rock, an act of self-defense aimed at disabling the chopper, not killing the officer. Number 4. The original Rambo was a cold-blooded psychopath. In David Morrell's novel First Blood, the character is completely different. The book's Rambo is a cold, emotionless killing machine, mercilessly murdering police officers, soldiers, and even innocent civilians, racking up a victim count of 15 to 20 people. This contrast is the entire philosophical battleground of the film's adaptation. Morrell's book was a stark, almost nihilistic portrayal of a truly broken war veteran, a character consumed by post-traumatic stress. But Stallone understood that to sustain a character, to make him an icon and a victim worthy of audience sympathy, He could not be a mass murderer. The choice to make Rambo operate strictly in self-defense, using his training only to neutralize, injure, or disable, was a radical choice for an action film. It shifts the entire narrative. The fault lies not with the veteran, but with the system, Teasel, and the society that hunted him. This subtle moral boundary is what allowed Rambo to become a relatable symbol of the abandoned veteran, rather than simply a monster. Number 5. 10 years of development hell. Before the film was made, the project was stalled for over 10 years. More than 18 different scripts were written and discarded. The rights to Morell's novel were snapped up almost immediately after its 1972 release, first by Columbia Pictures, then Warner Brothers, and then others. For a full decade, First Blood was the quintessential hot potato of Hollywood. One version turned Rambo into a psychopathic killer even worse than the book. Another leaned towards political satire. The common thread was that no one could figure out how to successfully adapt the bleak, violent material into a commercially viable film. It was only when independent producers Mario Kassar and Andrew Vajna acquired the rights and brought Stallone on board, giving him the creative freedom to reshape the core narrative, that the project finally found a way out of the darkness and onto the screen. Number 6. Kirk Douglas quit over the ending. The role of Colonel Sam Troutman was originally cast with Hollywood legend Kirk Douglas. He vehemently objected to Stallone's rewrite, insisting that the film must follow the novel's tragic spirit where Troutman had to shoot and kill Rambo. The tension escalated until Douglas withdrew just a few days before the cameras started rolling. Number 7. The role of Troutman was filled at the last minute. After Kirk Douglas quit, the production was in chaos. Richard Crenna was called in as a firefighter solution with almost no time to prepare. Crenna's calm, dignified, and compassionate demeanor, however, proved to be the perfect choice, making the character an iconic mentor. The clash between Douglas and Stallone was a battle over the soul of the movie. Douglas, the old-school legend, saw Troutman as the true hero who had to uphold the tragic moral code of the novel. Stallone, the rising star, saw Rambo as the future of a lucrative franchise. When Douglas walked, the film had a crisis. They needed a respected, authoritative figure immediately. Richard Crenna, a character actor beloved for his television roles, stepped in. Crenna brought a vital element, a dignified yet deeply compassionate and paternal quality. His Colonel Troutman wasn't just a grim executor of duty. He was a spiritual father struggling to save his son, a nuance that was crucial to making Rambo sympathetic to the audience. Number 8. The cliff jump that actually broke Stallone's bones. In the deep forests of British Columbia, Stallone flatly refused a stuntman for the scene where Rambo leaps from a sheer cliff. He plunged headfirst, colliding with branches and hitting the ground so hard that it fractured several of his ribs. The ragged breathing and pained face seen on screen are Stallone's real agony. Number 9. The punch that broke a stuntman's nose on screen. In the scene where Rambo explodes at the police station, Stallone threw a blow so hard it broke the nose of the stuntman opposite him. The genuine scream of pain was captured on camera, and the film crew decided to keep the intense, authentic moment in the final cut. Stallone's commitment to physical authenticity was legendary on this film. When it came to the cliff jump, he insisted, "If Rambo has to be in pain, then I have to go through that pain too." That desire for reality gave the film a raw, gritty edge that few other action movies of the era possessed. The moments where Rambo is gasping, bruised, and struggling aren't acting. They are Stallone's genuine agony. Similarly, the moment Rambo breaks a deputy's nose during his escape from the police station was an accident in the heat of the scene. Instead of stopping, the stuntman, Frankie Williams, finished the take, and the crew immediately recognized the raw, chaotic violence of the moment. They paid Williams a substantial bonus, and the broken nose shot remains in the film, a piece of accidental perfection. Number 10. A real weapons heist on the set. Right in the middle of filming in Hope, British Columbia, a truck full of prop weapons, including machine guns and rifles, was broken into and emptied by thieves. The stolen goods were valued at $50,000. The incident was so serious that the Canadian military was deployed to guard the remaining weapons. The theft of multiple M60 machine guns, M16 rifles, and other modified firearms was a massive blow, not just to the budget, but to the entire production's sense of security. The weapons were modified to fire blanks, but they could have been easily converted back to fire live rounds. This turned the movie set into a real-life crime scene, making front-page news in local papers and terrifying the cast and crew. The production literally became a military operation. The remaining weapons were guarded around the clock by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and the Canadian military. Stallone later joked that the prop storage might have been more heavily guarded than a small military base, adding an ironic layer of metadrama to an already intense action film. Number 11. A-listers who almost became Rambo. Before Stallone became synonymous with Rambo, Hollywood had a list of the biggest names targeted for the role. Clint Eastwood, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Dustin Hoffman, and Steve McQueen all turned it down. Pacino, for instance, wanted Rambo to be a frantic, uncontrollable madman, which the producers rejected. The decade of development hell meant virtually every major male star in Hollywood was considered for the role. Steve McQueen was initially set but was rejected because, at 48, producers felt he was too old to realistically play a recent Vietnam veteran. Al Pacino famously wanted Rambo to be crazier, turning the character into a truly uncontrollable madman. Clint Eastwood thought the character didn't quite fit his established man-with-no-name persona. Ultimately, fate and Stallone's willingness to rewrite and humanize the script chose Sly. Had any of those legends taken the role, the Rambo we know, the wounded, soulful, yet explosive action star, would have been completely unrecognizable. Number 12. Stallone rewrote the script 7 times. Stallone's involvement went far beyond acting. He performed an estimated 7 revisions of the script, continuing to fine-tune the dialogue and action even as filming began, all to ensure Rambo was portrayed as a sympathetic victim. When Stallone accepted the role, he made it conditional on being allowed to rewrite the script, which was then credited to Michael Kozel and William Sackheim. Stallone's primary goal was to drastically cut Rambo's lines. The Rambo of the film speaks very little, conveying his anguish through haunted eyes and physical action. Stallone understood that silence and nonverbal communication were far more powerful for a character suffering from PTSD than long, expository monologues. He also carefully pruned the violence, ensuring Rambo's restraint made him sympathetic, rather than terrifying. Without Stallone's aggressive intervention as a writer, the film would have likely been another overblown, violent thriller lost in the early 80s shuffle. Number 13. Rambo's name was inspired by an apple. The film's author, David Morrell, struggled to find a suitable name for his imposing main character. The inspiration finally came when his wife brought home some apples, one of which was called Rambo, which is also reminiscent of the French poet Rimbaud, whose work is A Season in Hell. Number 14. The film was shot in a town called Hope. The movie was filmed in the town of Hope, British Columbia, Canada. The contrast between the town's name and the dark, desperate story it contained adds a poignant layer of irony to the production. The contrast between the mundane inspiration for Rambo's name, an apple, and the powerful, forceful sound of the word is one of the project's quiet ironies. Even more profound is the choice of location. The film's atmosphere is bleak, suffocating, and desperate, culminating in Rambo's emotional breakdown over the loss of his friends and the society that rejected him. To have such a story of alienation and war trauma set in a small, wild town literally named Hope adds an unexpected layer of symbolic tragedy. Rambo arrives looking for connection and hope, but finds only violence, prejudice, and a manhunt. Number 15. A comedy director breathed soul into Rambo. The director of First Blood, Ted Kotcheff, was primarily known for light comedies and dramas before the film. No one could have imagined he would be the one to create the dark, violent, and desperate portrait of a veteran abandoned by society. Kotcheff was an unusual choice, known for films like Fun with Dick and Jane. His background, however, might explain the film's unique tone. He approached the material not as a pure action movie, but as a serious drama about trauma and isolation, making the violent sequences feel earned by the character's mental state. This resulted in a film that resonated not just domestically, but globally. In China, Rambo became a massive cultural phenomenon, a symbol of resilience and fighting against injustice, establishing First Blood as a cinematic bridge that helped Hollywood expand its influence into Asia. Number 16. The first Hollywood film to hit Chinese screens. In 1985, First Blood was selected to be shown in China, a historical turning point as the country had almost never opened its doors to major Hollywood films. The film's success made it the first American blockbuster to be widely released there. Number 17. The blizzard that turned the set into a nightmare. An unexpected blizzard swept through the British Columbia set, immobilizing cars and equipment and trapping crew members. The weather changed the filming schedule, but also provided a genuine, bone-chillingly cold and lonely landscape that added to the film's suffocating atmosphere. The blizzard was a logistical nightmare, equipment froze, and the filming schedule was thrown completely upside down. Yet, the adversity brought an unexpected gift. The biting cold, the thick ice, and the vast loneliness of the snow-blanketed mountains became a vivid, authentic texture for the film itself. The struggle seen on screen, Rambo's ragged appearance amidst the harsh landscape, was amplified by the genuine freezing conditions. This forced realism infused the film with a palpable sense of struggle and isolation, far surpassing any staged movie set could have achieved. Number 18. The iconic custom-made knife for Rambo. Rambo's massive knife was not a cheap prop, but a masterpiece by master knife maker Jimmy Lyle. It was designed as a survival tool with a hollow handle containing a kit, including matches, a compass, a fishhook, and a needle and thread. It immediately became a phenomenon with countless replicas flooding the market. Jimmy Lyle, the Arkansas knife maker, custom-designed the blade specifically for the film. It was the ultimate survival tool, a long, heavy blade for chopping, serrated teeth on the spine for sawing, and, most famously, a hollow, sealed handle containing a survival kit. This knife was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of Rambo's self-reliance and his ability to survive anywhere. Following the film's release, the Rambo knife became a global phenomenon, with countless replicas cementing its place as one of the most famous pieces of cinematic hardware in history. Number 19. The Bat Cave was changed to a rat cave. In the original novel, Rambo hides in a bat cave. When brought to the screen, the director was forced to change it to a rat cave. The reason wasn't artistic, but practical. Rats are easier and safer to control than bats for the film crew, creating an equally terrifying moment of destitution for Rambo. The minor change from bats to rats was a purely pragmatic decision based on ease of filming and safety, but the effect was arguably more visceral. The scene of Rambo being bitten and struggling in the dark, rat-infested cave perfectly highlighted the destitution he was forced to endure. Number 20. The $15 million film that became a $160 million legend. With a budget of only about $15 million, First Blood was not expected to be a miracle. However, upon its release, the film grossed over $160 million worldwide, exceeding all predictions and creating one of the greatest action franchises in cinematic history. And finally, the film's financial success proved that Stallone's humanized, empathetic version of the character was exactly what audiences wanted. Grossing over $160 million worldwide, First Blood didn't just earn a profit, it launched a massive franchise encompassing sequels, comics, toys, and games, forever etching Rambo's name into the annals of action cinema. First Blood truly deserves its reputation as the dark gem of the action genre, where thrilling violence blends with poignant tragedy to create a haunting experience. It is a cinematic miracle, a testament to the resilience of a character and a production that faced down disaster after disaster, from disastrous initial cuts to an audience-rejected death. Stallone's brilliant portrayal of Rambo, both fierce and full of humanity, turned a deeply flawed literary character into a timeless icon who is still fighting on screen decades later. We've explored the secrets, the rage of a test audience that forced a new ending, the 3-hour monstrosity that Stallone saved, the moral line that kept Rambo from becoming a killer, the massive A-list queue for his role, and the real pain Stallone endured for his art. Each of these 20 facts highlights the tense, dramatic battle of wits and willpower that took place behind the scenes to create this masterpiece. The story of First Blood reminds us that the greatest legends are often born out of the toughest battles, both on screen and behind the scenes. But what do you think? Did Stallone make the right choice keeping Rambo alive? Would you have preferred Kirk Douglas's version where Rambo died tragically? Let us know your thoughts on this legendary film in the comments below. If you were absolutely riveted by these fascinating behind-the-scenes facts, show your support by hitting the like button and sharing this video with a friend who loves classic action. And to join our community of movie enthusiasts and ensure you don't miss our next deep dive into cinema's most shocking stories, make sure you subscribe to the channel and ring that notification bell. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time for more untold truths from the world of movies.